Chapter 1723. The only thing Yu Cixin could feel was the slight coldness coming from his fingertips. When it touched his waist, he felt a numbness that caught him off guard. Even his eyes stopped moving. Hoshino looked into his eyes and said slowly, "What about this?" Yu Cixin didn't move because his body reacted faster than his brain. He seemed to be immersed in it. Hoshino's hand stopped on the second bone on the person's back. He moved closer. "In the past, I didn't realize why those people wanted to bring you away. It's hard not to think about it when you're like this. But do you really think you can suppress me?" Yu Cixin narrowed his eyes and held on to his wrist. "Do you have a misunderstanding about my stamina? I can't suppress you. I feel that it's easy for you to go berserk in this state." Hoshino wasn't flustered. "If I kiss you now, your stamina will probably decrease to 0. Kiss." When he heard this word, Yu Cixin froze. His heart was beating so fast that it felt like it was about to explode. There was no rhythm to it. Only he could hear the sound. Even if Yu Cixin was a beautiful venomous snake, he was still in a harmless state. He even seemed to be waiting to be slaughtered. Hoshino's hand changed direction and came to the back of his neck. He pressed his forehead against his and breathed slowly. "You like me so much. You're like this just because I said it." Yu Cixin narrowed his eyes and smiled. He said lazily, "Who am I not like this to? You know that you slept with too many people." Hoshino's gaze was indifferent. "So, how do you make me believe that your liking isn't a momentary impulse?" "What?" Yu Cixin felt that he had never been so close to him before. In this way, she could even feel his thin lips very close to her. At this moment, Yu Cixin didn't know what Hoshino was talking about. He sensed that the person was about to pull his hand away. He lifted the corners of his eyes and pressed his hand down. "Why are you talking so much? Help me." "Help you with what?" Hoshino wasn't in a hurry. He looked at that handsome face and felt a different kind of fragility. Yu Cixin lowered his voice. "What do you want to help me with? I'm so obvious. Even if you don't have experience, you should know." Hoshino's leg came into contact with the scalding heat, but his gaze remained unchanged. "Answer my previous question first." Of course, he understood. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Therefore, after he said this sentence, Hoshino leaned sideways, his thin lips landing on the tip of the man's ear. Yu Cixin, who was already intoxicated, felt the blood in his body heating up. Not only did his hands stop, even his body was trembling. What did he just do? Kiss him. He didn't stay for too long. Even when he only felt a flash of numbness. He didn't plan to continue kissing her. Yu Cixin had never felt that he wanted someone to continue touching him so much. It was as if he was suffering from skin hunger. This made Yu Cixin's breathing a little chaotic. What's the problem with the previous one? His brain had stopped working. Because until now, he had never felt like this before. He was so greedy that he didn't know how to be satisfied. Chapter 1724. Yu Cixin didn't know that his heart could beat so fast. It was like a storm that swept over. It was just a touch on the tip of his ear. How could there be such a strong feeling? Hoshino looked at the pair of eyes that were obviously a little unfocused. His gaze landed on the handsome face that was different from before. His black silk-like hair scattered beside his hand. Forget it. Hoshino chuckled. Yu Cixin didn't understand what he was laughing about. Moreover, they had already reached this step. Was he going to tell him to forget it? The pair of eyes that were immersed in it slowly narrowed. He was about to flare up. He heard that person whisper in his ear, "Compared to others, I don't like you on a whim." Yu Cixin's back stiffened. Hoshino had already stood up. What was this? Was he tricked? Yusishin's eyes were a little heavy. His heart felt as though it was frozen. He wanted to stand up too. But he was affected by Hoshino's next action. That person pressed down on his wrist and used his other hand to pick up the hangover water beside him. Where are you going? Drink this first. Is this the time to drink hangover water? Yusishin grabbed Hoshino's collar and pressed his body closer. Hoshino's voice was very calm. If you don't drink it, you will regret it the next day. I won't this time. Let me sleep. Yusishin's attitude was very lazy. Anything can be solved. Hoshino sat beside him. His aura didn't change at all. You can sleep after you finish drinking. Ha! Yusishin laughed softly. You kissed me first and now you're telling me to sleep like this. Hoshino lifted his eyelids. Or do you want to take a shower? You can. Anyway, the perfume on your body is too strong. It smells uncomfortable. Perfume? Are you kidding me? I never use incense. Yusishin suddenly paused. Are you jealous? MMH? Yusishin paused. Hoshino's expression didn't change. I really don't want to dig you out from the bed of any woman or man the next day. Moreover, since we want to be together, your actions should be restrained. Then sleep with me. Yusishin's mischievousness came from his bones. After sleeping with you, I probably won't be interested in anyone else. Hoshino glanced at him. Are you thinking about these things all day long? Isn't it good to be honest? Yusishin chuckled. Or am I not good-looking enough? Hoshino looked at him. Yusishin's aura got closer to that person. He was very good at using his appearance to achieve things. The only time he didn't use it was against Hoshino. But today was different. He wanted this person so badly. Moreover, Yusishin believed that he wouldn't remain unmoved. You really don't want to try. That kind of bewitchment was very tempting. In addition, Yusishin's lips were almost touching Hoshino's. But at this moment, Hoshino reached out and pulled the blanket. He covered Yusishin's handsome face with it. Even his head was covered. What are you doing? Yusishin narrowed his eyes and pulled the blanket down. Hoshino's voice was indifferent. Sleep. We're already at this stage and you're asking me to sleep. Yusishin laid on the bed but he was still unhappy. Chapter 1725. Was the future long? Sometimes, Yusishin felt that the Chinese language had a charm. It was because a few simple words would make people feel that his future wasn't cold anymore. He wasn't going to wake up from a stranger's bed when he couldn't sleep. He seemed to have been like this since he was young. He could always find a sense of stability in this person. And this was the first time Hoshino looked at him with such a gaze. It was like the water in the mountain stream and as tough as a rock. There was a little snow in it but it didn't feel cold at all. Instead, it made his fingers stiffen. Although he was drunk and his stamina couldn't keep up. But Yusishin's aura didn't fade. He was so evil that he wouldn't yield to anyone. This was also why some people wanted to challenge him when they saw him. And the reason why some people backed down. Many people died in Yusishin's hands. Of course, those who didn't have eyes and thought that he was the best would end up in a terrible state. Hence, the title of Viper was known to everyone. No matter what the occasion was, as long as he sat there, it would become a phenomenon. He was like an extremely extravagant dark noble with a crown on his head. There were many beauties around him. But now, Yusishin's attack speed slowed down. The feeling of his rhythm being controlled by someone else. This was something he had never experienced before. Yu Cixin squinted his eyes and wanted to stir up the atmosphere again. That person suddenly stretched out his hand and hugged him and the blanket. His voice rang beside his ear. Sleep, if you don't sleep, I won't be responsible for accompanying you to sleep. Yu Cixin froze. Even his slender legs didn't move. His life was messy. He was completely different from this person. Yu Cixin didn't understand why such a simple action wasn't intense at all. There was even a blanket between them. But it gave Yu Cixin a very different feeling. It even made him feel reluctant to let go, and he didn't want to destroy the current atmosphere. If he had to describe it, it was much more warm than sleeping with a stranger for a night. It was like the first time he ate cotton candy when he was young. Oh right, as a leader. His mother told him since young that cotton candy wasn't something he should eat. Unsurprisingly, after he was found to have eaten cotton candy, he was severely beaten up. But even so, the tip of his tongue had not forgotten the taste of cotton candy. The faint sweetness lingered for a long time. Yu Cixin didn't move. He just looked at the ceiling and replied, "MMH." Hoshino looked at the face that had been too good to look at since he was young. He raised his eyebrows slightly. No resistance. Yu Cixin was really asleep, so he didn't care that he was the one being hugged. The next day, when Hoshino received Bojio's invitation, he didn't reply. Instead, he called her. "Is it convenient for you to bring your family along?" "Family?" Bojio paused, her lips lifting. "It seems like you have thought it through. All right, bring them over." Hoshino chuckled. "You know who it is. Who else could it be other than that poisonous snake?" Bojio lifted her long legs. After frog jumping, she was resting. "Since you can't let go of him, you would have gone to do other things. You wouldn't have stayed there as a consultant. Nowadays, gangs are becoming more and more sophisticated, and there are even positions like consultants. But, Hoshino, can he be stable?" Hoshino glanced at the sleeping man on the bed. "I will think of a way to stabilize him." Chapter 1726. From what she knew, Yu Cixin would get up from other people's beds every day. But he would never have sex with those people. It was probably because of his childhood trauma. Similarly, his popularity would never last long. Hoshino was probably the only one who could stop him. Venomous snakes had always been cunning. They would hide in the bushes and try to swallow a person. He didn't know that the hunter had already set up a trap. He was just waiting for him to make the first move. Then, he would pull back and bring the venomous snake home. "I wonder if it's cold to hug a snake." Bojio hung up the phone and smiled. There wasn't anyone supervising them today, so Bojio wasn't very interested. She muttered to herself. She heard a voice beside her ear. "Aren't you going to train properly? Wait a moment, I'll buy a box of heat pads for Hoshino first. I'll give it to him when we go to Milan." Bojio leaned against the railing behind her. She didn't even look up as she tapped on the shopping page. Her other hand was casually placed at the side. The ends of her hair were still slightly wet. The youngster looked clean and evil. Manager Phone wanted to remind her that a certain someone was back. Who would have thought? It would lead to Hoshino's name. As expected, Chin Mo, who was standing beside him, replied, "Oh." His gaze was still calm. "Do you need to buy an electric blanket for him too?" "An electric blanket is good, it can conduct heat." Bojio paused. She kept her phone naturally and looked at the handsome and noble face in front of her. Then, her hands moved. She hugged his waist and took advantage of him. "I didn't see you today. I didn't have any motivation when I was punished." Chin Mo raised the corner of his eyes. "Madam Chin, where's your face?" "I ran away from home temporarily. Bojo looked up lazily. Qin Mo signaled to her that there were people around. Bojo noticed them. Since her obedient disciple wasn't among them, she glanced over. Her evil smile was obvious. It was basically saying, "Don't you think you're a little extra?" Xiao Sanpang couldn't tolerate it. He had seen many people showing off their love, but he had never experienced such a strange one. Of course, she couldn't be a third wheel. She wouldn't be able to eat dinner if she did that. Bojo watched them with a smile. When they were gone, she lifted her head and kissed the lips that were inches away from her. There was a faint smell of tobacco. Qin Mo didn't allow her to be insatiable. Even though there was a smile in his eyes, he had to clarify his principles. "Why did you buy Hoshino thermal pads? You see Shin's body temperature is slightly cold." Bojo wasn't pleased that her kiss had been interrupted. She arched a brow. Buying such things might improve their relationship. Qin Mo asked casually, "Their relationship?" Don't ask about that. Don't hang out with them in the future," Bojo replied casually. "You're too pure, it's easy for you to turn gay." Qin Mo lowered his lids. "Easily gay. This thing has always been affected." Bojo smiled faintly. "I respect everyone's sexual orientation, but I hate the idea that the same sex is the only true love. Besides, Hoshino and young Master Xian are both bewitching. Brother Mo, don't ever think about it." Qin Mo swept her a glance. His voice was calm. "Give me your phone." Bojo arched a brow. "Brother Mo, don't you think you're behaving like a girl? Why are you looking at your phone?" "Give it to me," Qin Mo repeated. Bojo handed it over. Chapter 1727. Qin Mo only took 2 glances at it. He locked his gaze on one of the paragraphs. "Luo Luo, little Spade, do you know how interesting it was when we met your parents?" Spade Black asked, "How so?" "Luo Luo, Auntie and the others always felt that our captain liked Qin Mo ever since he was young. He didn't pay so much attention to anyone other than Qin Mo. Auntie was still wondering if we were pretending to be a couple in order to deal with our family. When she heard that Qin Mo had sent a delivery, her expression changed. Speaking of which, Qin Mo really gave off the impression that he didn't care about men and women. The Mo and Jing couple has always been very popular." Bojo smiled and said lazily, "When he comes back, I'll discipline him." Luo Luo replied with a light smile. "There's no need for discipline. If they are together, we will elope. Anyway, you will always be the Almighty in my heart." Qin Mo released the screen and looked up at a certain someone. "Adonis? You?" Bojo smiled. Her eyes were bright and her teeth white. "After all, I rely on my face to make a living." "Ha!" Qin Mo laughed. He reached out and pinched her face. He seemed to be testing the thickness of her face. There was a double meaning in his words. "Indeed, you rely on your face to make a living." The force wasn't painful. Instead, it made it easier for her to hug his waist. It was all a trap. Bojo knew that, but in front of a beauty, her heart was itching. "In the past, I only needed to guard against girls. Now, I need to guard against guys." Bojo looked up. She was still smiling. "You are really a beauty that brings trouble. But Brother Mo, when you discuss tactics with Captain Xiao, don't have any other thoughts. Captain Xiao has a girlfriend now. It's illegal to destroy other people's relationships." Qin Mo listened to her nonsense with a serious expression. In the end, he reached out and pressed her wrist that was behind him. "I think you are the one who has other thoughts." "MH?" Bojo admitted it directly. "Have I done anything to you? It hasn't been a day or 2. She was caught again. Seriously, it wasn't easy to attack. Chin Mo lowered his gaze and looked at her face. He switched their positions and pushed her against the corner. He pulled her hand to the back of his waist. He was wearing a shirt on the inside and a jacket on the outside. With the jacket covering this area, even if Bojo really did anything, no one would be able to see it. Her hands were inside his white shirt. Under her palms were ribs and lumbar muscles that felt good to the touch. It was late autumn in Rivertown and the weather was getting cold. This kind of contact was just enough to warm her hands. Hence, he allowed her to place her hands on his back. But it was impossible to stop someone from moving. Chin Mo could only feel that the hand was like fire, running all over his body. When her fingertips came into contact with him, she felt a burst of anger. Chin Mo's Adam's apple bobbed. He lowered his gaze and pressed against her forehead. "Don't move." His clear voice was low and raspy as it entered her ears. A wave of numbness overflowed from his heart. Bojo glanced up and saw his elegant and handsome face. Due to the influence of some things, his breathing was no longer as steady as usual. Even the corners of his eyes were a little different. He held her waist and brought her neck to his lips. Abstinence and excitement mixed together. Bojo knew that only she could make him like this. Chapter 17:28. She couldn't help but want to be close to him. However, he placed his head on her shoulder as though he was avoiding her on purpose. He was extremely reserved. Then, he pushed her away, his gaze still unstable. "Let's go." That was it. Bojo arched a brow, slightly unhappy. She lowered her head and looked at her fingertips. She felt that it was time to use the drugs she dug out from the Black Brothers on a certain almighty. After all, they were going to Milan the day after tomorrow. Because they were going to face the National League. Hence, the training standards had to be high. Other than ensuring sufficient training, they had to rest well. They definitely didn't have time for a relationship. It wasn't easy for them to have a break today. No wonder Bojo had some thoughts. Anyway, they were going home. Bojo lifted her thin lips. Once they were home, there would be a chance for her to make a move. Chin Mo walked in front, the feeling around his waist still lingering. His deep gaze deepened and the corners of his lips lifted slightly. In the hall. It wasn't easy for there to be no keyboard sounds today. Zhao Sanpang felt that scheming Chin was very flirtatious today. "What's wrong with your shirt? Didn't he usually dress neatly?" He even said that if he couldn't even dress properly, he shouldn't come out. He had to pay attention to his image. They were a Chinese team now and they represented the country. Hence, even he didn't wear flip-flops anymore and dressed according to the rules. What was wrong with this fellow now? Today is a break. Chin Mo's voice was calm. Zhao Sanpang smirked. "What has that got to do with your messy clothes? A break is considered private time." Chin Mo glanced at him. "My shirt is wrinkled because Joe lifted it." Zhao Sanpang froze. F***ck. He was feeding him dog food again. "Then why didn't you tidy it up?" Chin Mo said slowly, "You don't have a girlfriend so you probably don't understand. It feels good when your girlfriend lifts your shirt. That's why you purposely didn't tidy it up. Have you ever seen a couple in love like the two of you?" The girl lifted the guy's shirt. Little Mo Bei was standing beside Zhao Sanpang, carrying her school bag. There wasn't any expression on her fair face. Almighty Fatty is always dealt a blow. Why do you still want to be abused by my master's wife? Zhao Sanpang thought. That's really hurtful. She caressed Mo Bei's head with her right hand. Don't say that, your master Fatty is an esports player with the most girlfriend fans. I have to pay attention to my image. Girlfriend fan. Little Mo Bei furrowed her brows slightly. The world is so strange. I thought everyone only looks at looks. Xiao Sanpang was about to vomit blood. Am I not handsome? Do you want to hear the truth? Little Mo Bei asked seriously. Xiao Sanpang paused. How was he supposed to answer this rhetorical question? On the other hand, Luo laughed as she watched from the side. His gaze landed on the small figure before turning towards Bojiu. It's a pity. MH. Bojiu raised a brow. When Luo smiled, her long hair hung down. She was indeed beautiful. It would be a pity for Bei if the Supreme Alliance disbanded. A little. Bojiu chuckled. But she will come back one day. Luo glanced sideways. Are you so sure? Does she not want to fight anymore? Chapter 1729. Luo paused for a moment. You are thinking so far ahead. The competition isn't about one person. Bojiu glanced up. You have been through that path. You should know that it doesn't feel good to be ostracized by your peers. Luo looked at the person in front of her. Bojiu raised her eyebrows. What is it? Nothing. Luo reached out. You are too handsome. I want to pinch you. Bojiu stuffed one hand into her pocket. Feel free to pinch me. Luo did pinch her. Why did this person know so much? Usually, she wouldn't even say a word. This was probably gentleness. Luo turned her gaze back to the small figure not far away. That child's black hair was a little longer. It hit his eyelids and he was secretly mocking Master Fatty. Occasionally, he would free his hands to help them wipe the keyboard and carry water to drink. He never said he was tired. The bitter gourd juice they drank was made by Little Bei. Basically, during holidays, Bojiu would let Little Bei stay in the base. Other than the people in the team, no one else knew. That was because Bojiu paid for Bei's meals. It was the same for the plane tickets to Milan. Actually, every team in every country would have a reserve of newbies. They would bring them over to experience it during this international competition. Although the Supreme Alliance had disbanded. But Bojiu was his master. Her protective nature wouldn't change. How could her disciple not have what other people had? Also, during this period of time, everyone knew that Bojiu had been training Bei in other positions. Other than being an assassin, she was playing in all aspects. You are looking forward to Bei's return, right? Luo laughed softly. She pinched that handsome face again. If not, there is no need to groom her like this. Bojiu leaned against the wall lazily without saying a word. Before she could say anything, she was pulled over. It was Qin Mo. Luo's hand landed on empty air. Qin Mo pressed the person in his arms. His eyelids were half raised. He looked nonchalant, but when his gaze landed on Luo, it was slightly cold. If you want to pinch a face, look for your Captain Xiao. Luo glanced sideways and looked at the other person who walked over. Captain Zhao's face wasn't something that people wanted to pinch. Qin Mo had already brought her away. Luo wanted to complain to Xiao Jing. Qin Mo is so petty, I can't even pinch little Spade's face. Unexpectedly, Xiao Jing glanced at her and said slowly, do you think you're too close to Z? Luo was stunned. Could it be that even he, Xiao Jing, was wearing a white coat and had an otherworldly aura? If you want to pinch my face in the future, pinch me. Luo, after leaving the base and getting into the car, Qin Mo behaved differently. After holding someone's chin for a long time, his fingertips gently rubbed the place where Luo had pinched. In the end, he frowned slightly. What happened between you and Luoluo? Bojo chuckled. Don't you know that she's my goddess? Honestly, Brother Mo, if I was a guy, you guys wouldn't be involved. Ha! Chin Mo chuckled. He suddenly leaned forward and bit her ear. Do you still want to be a man? Bojo froze. She seemed to have gone overboard. Chapter 1730. When Bojo heard that voice, she wanted to hug him. But recently, a certain someone liked to play hard to get with her too much. For example, now. After saying that, he sat up straight and even tidied his sleeves. He looked as though he didn't want her to get close to him. But he was abstinent and noble. Bojo's heart itched. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. No matter what, she had to sleep with him today. The place they were staying in was Chin Mo's loft apartment. There was no need to get 2 more rooms. Husband and wife should maintain a relative sense of distance. It wasn't suitable to put this matter on Chin Mo. When he was young, he was used to raising a certain little Bojo. It was even more so now. This kind of idiot who liked to flirt was the most suitable to be kept by his side. At this moment, Bojo was deep in thought about how to use the drug on Chin Mo naturally. Even when Princess came to provoke her, she didn't care. Princess's big face was a little confused. He stretched out his claws to provoke her again. Bojo broke into a smile and took out 2 wine glasses. Then she picked up a bottle of red wine. The entire process was always done with a handsome look. Although Bojo's cooking skills weren't good. But she, who had infiltrated all the big nightclubs, was a professional at drinking. Of course, Chin Mo saw her actions. His gaze was a little indifferent, but his eyes deepened. He didn't show anything. Instead, he turned his head and continued to deal with his steak. Bojo naturally reached out and hugged Chin Mo from behind. I can help you cut the vegetables. Forget it. Chin Mo glanced sideways. Help me get the onions from the fridge. Bojo had something to do. She diverted her attention slightly. Her intentions couldn't be too obvious. When the 2 of them were in the kitchen. Basically, it was like this. Chin Mo cooked. Bojo would help him by the side. Until a long time later. A little boy asked, Mommy, you don't know how to cook. Why are you always in the kitchen? This is called excessive waste of public resources. Bojo's voice was evil. What do you mean excessive waste of public resources? That's because you haven't learned the term feast for the eyes. I'm standing here, of course, to admire your daddy's beauty. Hence, the little boy flipped through the dictionary that day. He felt that his mommy had some misunderstanding about the term feast for the eyes. It was terrifying to use this word to describe his father. Of course, this was a story for another time. The little man hadn't come out yet. There is only 1 cat here. It wouldn't affect Bojo's naughty mood. Once the steak was in the pot and the aroma of the steak sizzled, she took the opportunity to pass one of the wine glasses to Chin Mo. It was the same when they were on 5th Avenue. Before eating the steak, he would drink a little wine. Cooking in such a leisurely evening would make people feel more relaxed. That was why she handed him the wine. Of course, Chin Mo wouldn't reject her. He gently swirled the wine glass, smiled, and took a sip. The corners of Bojo's lips lifted when she saw him drinking. Sure enough, if he wanted to trick him, he would have to do it in his daily life. Watch the fire, I'll go get the broccoli. Bojo didn't care about where he was going and replied, all right. They only needed to wait for half an hour. After half an hour, the drug would take effect, and he would gradually lose the strength to resist. At that time, she could do whatever she wanted. Chapter 1731. On the second floor, Chin Mo stood by the bed, looking at the pill in his palm. His eyebrows twitched as he placed it in his mouth, his lips curving into a smile. Bojo couldn't see this. As a kitchen killer, she wouldn't let her guard down when it came to watching the fire. After Chin Mo came back, she asked, "Is it burnt?" "No." When Chin Mo was cooking the steak, his posture was very standard. The marinating process was also very handsome. The steak was very fragrant after it came out. Even though she had other plans, it didn't affect her desire to eat steak. Since she was a carnivore, the moment the steak came out, Chin Mo cut a piece and fed it to her. Bojo had always been a fast eater. Previously, under Chin Mo's control, he could eat slowly with the foundation of admiring the beauty. Today, he would occasionally raise his eyes to look at the time, and his movements were much faster. Chin Mo held the knife and fork the same as before. His posture was so perfect that it could be used for a poster. He even wore a pair of glasses on the bridge of his nose. He didn't wear glasses very often, unless it was to match his clothes. When they were about halfway through the meal, he put down the knife and fork and pinched the space between his eyebrows. Bojo had been supporting her chin lazily with one hand. When she saw his actions, her eyes lit up uncontrollably. "Why? Are you not feeling well?" "No." Chin Mo glanced at her. "I'm just a little tired." "That's right." Bojo smiled. "Do you want to take a break after eating?" Chin Mo lowered his lids. Was this guy that happy to see him fall for the trick? Bojo glanced at the clock, calculating that the medicine was indeed starting to take effect. When it was almost 7:20 p.m., she tapped her fingers on the table. Chin Mo reached out and unbuttoned his shirt. "Hot." Bojo arched a brow. Chin Mo replied, his slender fingers undid another one. This time, he was slow. When his fair collarbone was revealed, there was an indescribable sense of abstinence. Bojo was elated, but she didn't show it on her face, maintaining her lazy expression. "I'll go adjust the temperature." "No need." Chin Mo seemed to want to stand up, but the moment he stood up, he swayed and sat back on the chair. Then he frowned deeply, as though he couldn't understand why he was like this. Bojo leaned slightly, a little worried. "Are you feeling unwell?" "No." Chin Mo's voice didn't change. "I just can't use my arms and legs." "Is there something wrong with the wine you poured?" Bojo knew it wouldn't be easy to trick the Almighty. Since the drug was out, she decided to admit it. "I drugged you." Chin Mo looked at the smiling face in front of him. He didn't see any hint of guilt. Instead, he looked very playful. And after seeing that he was out of strength, that person lifted his chin, lowered his eyes, and kissed him. The corner of his mouth was still curled up. "Brother Mo, how about I help you to the bed?" "Grandfather Butler told you to be more reserved since you were young. Have you forgotten, Mrs. Chin?" Chin Mo asked casually. Bojo sat on the dining table and leaned down to kiss his fingers. She was a handsome gentleman, just like a prince. "I'm very reserved, I didn't force you." Chin Mo looked at her. When she bent down, he could clearly see the back of her neck, which was as white as snow. Chapter 1732. Chin Mo did the same. Just as Bojo was celebrating her success, Chin Mo glanced sideways and kissed the back of her neck. Bojo shuddered. She lost the strength in her hands that were peeling off his shirt. This wasn't right. Just as she was about to lift her head, Chin Mo grabbed her right hand. In the blink of an eye, their fingers interlocked. He had already stood up and pushed her against the dining table. His deep and magnetic voice traveled over. "Are you happy?" Bojo was smart. Of course, as she realized something. She glanced sideways at his wine glass. Chin Mo's breath landed on the back of her ears. "The drug will take effect in half an hour. The symptoms are fever and weakness. You can do whatever you want. Doesn't that sound familiar?" Bojo didn't want to lose. She smiled faintly. Black brothers are really unreliable. When did Brother Mo find out? Chin Mo's fingers had already reached into her shirt. He smiled. "What do you think?" He had found out from the start. "Really?" Bojo felt a little regretful. Chin Mo watched her depressed expression. He moved closer. "I've been waiting for you to use this drug." Bojo thought about walking into a trap. "Did you drink the antidote beforehand?" "So smart." Chin Mo arched a brow. His mind wasn't on this anymore. His fingertips touched her softness. His breath started to waver. The corners of Bojo's beautiful eyes turned red. She couldn't ignore the numbness that rose up. She looked at the person standing in front of her. She didn't even need to talk about doing whatever she wanted, she was basically being controlled by the other party. Chin Mo noticed her trembling. His gaze deepened. He bent down and untied her collar. Then, he kissed her lightly. He didn't give her a chance to escape. He stood in front of her, blocking her escape route. Needless to say, he held her right hand the entire time. Bojo's entire body was burning. The numbness spread from her fingertips and spread everywhere. The temperature in the room continued to rise. Bojo heard his voice beside her ear. There was a hint of laughter in his voice. "Do you want me very much?" To Bojo, Chin Mo was like a demon who had been cultivating for many years. It was even worse now. Bojo's shirt was pulled up, revealing her waist. The curve was beautiful and seductive, carrying the innocence of a youngster. She smiled like a demoness. "Why else would I drug you?" Chin Mo's gaze deepened as he placed his left hand on her waist. His fingertips seemed to be electrified. "That sounds logical." Bojo's waist softened and even her breathing became hot. They had been together for so long. He knew her body better than she did. It was as if the pair of hands were enchanted. There was numbness everywhere. Bojo's thoughts seemed to be floating in midair. They could only let him take the lead. He wouldn't give her a chance to think it through. His thin lips landed on her shoulder. Every action was so forceful that she couldn't resist it. She heard the sound of the belt being unbuckled, and it was mixed with his shallow voice, making her ears feel a little hot. Bojo's breathing was in a mess. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't, go to the bed." Chapter 1733. She floated up and down. The heat by her ear became more obvious. She was pushed onto the table by him. Even her fingertips had no strength left. Until her voice broke. When it was about time, he held her waist with one hand. His voice was low and magnetic. "Is it comfortable?" "MH." Bojo trembled. Her thoughts were empty. The numbness in her fingertips hadn't faded. She realized that he seemed to have recovered. She was about to open her eyes. He lowered his lids and kissed her neck. The temperature in the room rose again. He could clearly hear the ambiguous squeaking sounds. Every sound seemed to be filled with sweetness. As for Bojo, when she was enduring it, she would stretch her neck. It was so beautiful. Indeed. She was only wearing a white shirt. To Chin Mo, it was no different from pure medicine. Moreover, she was wearing his shirt. Hence, even though he was very patient, he didn't wait until they went upstairs. And he liked this feeling. It felt as though he was her only support. It made Chin Mo unable to stop. Bojio's entire body was soft. She didn't know how many times he had coaxed her. The night was still long. The next day, Bojio woke up in the car. In the long Lincoln, he let her sleep in his arms. She didn't need to think to know that he was the one who helped her wear the clothes. When Bojio looked up, she saw that handsome and abstinent face. The curve of his chin was very clear. It wasn't as desolate as yesterday. It was still very seductive. Facing such a face, Bojio endured the pain in her waist. She decided to take advantage of him when there was a chance. Her hand slipped into his shirt. Chin Mo glanced down. Doing bad things the moment you wake up. That's really your style. If Brother Mo could cooperate with me and not move, it would be better, Bojio said wickedly. Chin Mo lifted his lips. He leaned towards her ear and said in a voice that could only be heard by the two of them, "Who was the one who asked me to move faster and harder yesterday?" "MH." Bojio didn't say anything. Her face was flushed. Chin Mo lowered his voice. "Don't worry. When we reach the place, I'll let you touch all you want." When they reached the place, Bojio found out. The place he was talking about was a hot spring resort. There were only the two of them on the topmost floor. He seemed to like her wearing his clothes and let her go into the water wearing the white shirt. It was hot all around. There was also a thin layer of mist, like the water vapor of a mountain stream. It inexplicably gave off a feeling of a fairyland. No one would see them. Chin Mo wouldn't allow anyone to come over. Moreover, he fulfilled his promise. He held her hand and led her to his waist. Leaning against the edge of the hot spring pool, he smiled and said, "Mrs. Chin, please go ahead." Bojio wanted to take advantage of him, but if she continued, she would be the one with a sore back. "Why?" Chin Mo pulled her back. "Are you going to abandon me?" Bojio replied lazily, "I want to, but it's too tiring. You have to promise me that you won't do it." "Sure." Chin Mo chuckled. "As long as you don't want it, I won't touch it." The facts proved that it would be better to have a good time. Because he really didn't do anything out of line. Sometimes, Chin Mo was mindful of his promise. However, the kisses that landed on her body came one after another. She had no way to resist at all. Chapter 1734. In the end, she didn't know who had taken advantage of who. Bojio had touched enough of Chin Mo. But she was the one who had been eaten. It was just that she couldn't forget anything. After that, she could hear him panting beside her ear. His handsome face was different from usual. His lips were red, and his eyes were deep and beautiful. Bojio never got tired of looking at him. Chin Mo always knew how to take care of someone. He fished her out of the water. He took a sleeping robe and wrapped her up. She sat in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and looked at the lights outside. Actually, it wasn't that intense. Compared to the first day. Today, Chin Mo had restrained himself. Hence, Bojio only felt comfortable. It was even more comfortable to lean against him. After hearing his words, she moved. She didn't understand. "What are you doing with your hand?" "I'm not touching you anymore." Chin Mo raised his eyebrows. "I'm not asking you to touch me. Keep your perverted thoughts to yourself." Bojio yawned lazily and leaned against him shamelessly. She pressed her thin lips against his neck. "Brother Mo, you don't understand. To create a beautiful marriage, one of us has to take the initiative. You're so reserved. How can I not take the initiative? I'll tolerate you. Thank you, Lord Joe, Chin Mo said casually. He pulled her hand over. Bojo knew he was going to cut her nails. She started to pull her hand back. Leave your nails for you to chew. Chin Mo moved closer. His breath landed beside her ear. My back is red from your scratches. When Bojo heard this, her face heated up. She just looked at him. Chin Mo's body was already very good. It was covered with thin layers of muscles. His back was straight and flawless. Now, the scratches were extremely ambiguous. Shouldn't soldiers have thick skin and muscles? As expected, even when Momo grew up, he was still a little princess. I'll be gentler in the future. Bojo was serious. She never realized that this was usually said by boys. Chin Mo glanced down at her and took her hand. Chin Mo would never have the patience to serve others. But ever since he had regained his memory, serving Bojo had become easier. It was a habit he had cultivated since he was young, and he couldn't change it even if he wanted to. Moreover, he had never thought of changing. He should have been the one to raise it. Even during training, Xiao Sanpang had said it countless times. For example, after the frog jump. Xiao Sanpang would always say, scheming Qin, does little spade have hands? You even have to help her tie her shoelaces. Every time, Chin Mo would mock and suppress him. You're single, so you won't understand. Xiao Sanpang had tried persuading Bojo with all his heart. Little spade, really, a good-looking person is the same, but an interesting soul is one in a million. Scheming Qin's face is only worth looking at, everything else is boring. Everyone else would definitely go out to play during the holidays, but what is he doing? He stays at home drinking tea, playing chess and reading books, entering his old age early. Little spade, how can you tolerate it? You're the little prince of the nightclub. Almighty fatty, it's embarrassing, but I like good-looking people, Bojo said seriously. The lighting in the nightclub isn't good, the face can't be seen clearly, but it's different at home. He reads books and I look at him. MMH. Perfect. Chapter 1735. Other people probably didn't know. Chin Mo was very good at taking care of people. But other people were still other people. There were very few people like Bojo who were willing to be controlled by him. Chin Mo wasn't without flaws. He was very possessive. He even blacklisted Luo from her phone. Anyway, everyone would complain about this behavior. Bojo always had one sentence. It's a small matter. I'll add it back secretly. Then, she would smile mischievously. Everyone in the world was like this. No one was perfect. For example, Bojo was like the wind. At this moment, she could lie lazily in your arms. In the next moment, she could drive a Lamborghini and do something. She had many friends, both of the opposite sex and the same sex. Most of the time, she would train and play. Indeed, she liked to eat, drink and play. And Chin Mo was the only person who could catch the wind. She couldn't change her love for the dark. He wouldn't let her change either. But she was clear about one thing. She was his. Up until now, Bojo had a clear understanding of this point. When she met someone good-looking, she would just look. After all, she realized that no one could be compared to the person beside her. Bojo thought about this and opened her eyes to enjoy the benefits of marriage. Chin Mo glanced sideways. He thought that he had cut the flesh under her nails. His posture moved and his brows were slightly furrowed. Princess watched from the side. The cat's face was really round. although Master tried to bring him everywhere he went. But he didn't feel loved at all. Master was so casual when he cut his nails. And look at him now. He was so careful, as if he was treating a porcelain doll. And this was his daily life. Sometimes, the princess almost suspected that this person did it on purpose. It was the same when she got off the bed. Master had to remind her to wear slippers. Bojo had nothing to say about this. In terms of life skills, she hadn't improved much. Occasionally, when she wanted to enter the kitchen to make breakfast, that person had to stand behind her and teach her every step of the way. Hence, Bojo didn't just know how to cook noodles. It wasn't a problem to make scrambled eggs with tomatoes. Chin-mo was probably like this. He might ask if she wanted to destroy the kitchen, but the next second, he would come over and teach her. Just like when they were young, he held her hand and taught her to write his name stroke by stroke. Are you stupid? Momo, I'm really not good at this kind of manual work. Since when is writing considered manual work? It counts for me. It's the most difficult kind. Sit properly. You're still writing. What else do you want to do? Play with William. Back then, she had been smart. She had hugged his face and kissed him. No, I just don't want to write. He originally thought that she would be able to conquer him, but when he thought about it, he realized that Momo was just too pure at that time. He took a deep breath and said, "Don't sleep at my place today." No, not only today, don't come tomorrow either. Why? Bojo didn't understand. She had already expressed herself honestly. Chin-mo couldn't understand how someone could act shamelessly and take advantage of him at such a young age. How many times did he have to remind her that she was a girl? She laid limply on his shoulder. She admitted her mistake rather sincerely. I promise to control myself next time, but Momo is too beautiful. I'm not sure if I can control myself. Chapter 1736. From a certain point of view. Bojo really hadn't changed since she was young. As for Chin-mo, he wasn't used to it when he was young. His etiquette told him that there was a difference between men and women and he had to maintain an appropriate distance. But later on, he realized that when she didn't look for him or hug him, he felt terrible. Terrible. He didn't want to keep a distance from her. There was only one solution. If he raised her, there wouldn't be any difference between men and women. That meant Chin-mo's scheming hadn't changed. Otherwise, William wouldn't have felt a chill down his spine when he saw him and his legs would go weak. It was a childhood nightmare. But these couldn't compare to his gentleness. Those who knew Chin-mo said. It was really hard to imagine that one day, he would patiently cut another person's nails and tidy up her cuffs. This was beyond their understanding. Even if they were dating, it shouldn't be like this. Only old Master had a smile on his lips and didn't say anything. At that time, he thought, that's because you haven't seen them when they were young. He would always tease his grandson. You are helping the Bo family raise the child. Now, it seemed like raising the child was raising the wife. Whenever the two of them ate, his grandson would personally feed them under his supervision. Even children would have a toothache. He didn't know how much effort his grandson had put in to get her to stop eating candy and let her bite on peppermint leaves. Old Master wanted to laugh whenever he thought about that time. Similarly, there would be the time when they separated. His best friend despite the difference in age. It was really a pity. Old Master seemed to sigh. At the business cocktail party, someone didn't understand. What is Chairman worried about? Is it about your grandson? I have a good one here. Forget it, yours is good. It's good to have a better one than mine. Old Master listened to these daily recommendations. In his heart, old Master N thought it was time to hold a wedding for the two children in China. In less than 3 days, the two children would represent China in the competition. The people in the business circle really didn't know how good his grandson was at gaming. Hence, they didn't know that his grandson held a wedding overseas. She really married into the Bo family. Old Master N didn't expect his grandson to be successful. Since he was young, he wanted to raise the Bo family's child. He definitely didn't want to care about it anymore. But these people didn't know about his grandson's marriage. Grandpa N smiled. After thinking about what to say, he was about to speak. An evil laugh rang out from the other side. It was low and pleasant to the ears. I say, everyone, it seems like you guys aren't very well informed. That smile was so familiar that Grandpa N almost thought that there was something wrong with his hearing. He, who had always been a businessman, paused for a moment and slowly looked behind him. She saw a man leaning against the piano. This time, he was not wearing a windbreaker, but a pure black suit, tall and straight. It was as if time had not left any traces on his body. His face was still chiseled and handsome, giving off a lazy feeling. However, because his lips were too thin and his skin was too white, people would always associate him with the word demon. He had the temperament of a vampire nobleman. As he walked over, he attracted everyone's attention. Who is this? Someone asked. Chapter 1737. That person walked over. She wasn't sure if it was because he was too handsome. It was as though there were stars in his deep eyes. The Chin kid got married a long time ago, didn't he? Married? Some of the older people who were only businessmen were a little hesitant. The people at the side were still discussing. When he turned back, he wanted to ask Old Master N if it was true. Old Master N's eyes were shaking. Director N, do you know this? Before the person beside him could finish his sentence. Old Master N walked over, opened his arms and gave the person a hug. They were true friends despite the difference in age. Where have you been all these years? The person smiled, evil and lazy. Looking for someone. Old Master N didn't understand. Looking for someone. Who? Who do you think it could be? The man curled his lips again. Old Master N's eyes shook even more. Isn't she, yes. The person seemed to be talking about something very normal. But I didn't believe it, so I kept looking in that sea. Old Master N was shocked again. Then I found her. The person smiled, his eyes bright and teeth white. But I encountered a problem. Old Master N heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. After all, there's nothing you can't solve. I can't solve the problem of my daughter getting married. I heard that your grandson has married into the Bo family. The person's smile deepened. It seems like our young Master Joe's wish was fulfilled. When she was young, she saved money to buy your grandson. Now, she bought him. Old Master N smiled and shook his head. When he thought of the two children when they were young, it was indeed interesting. On the other hand, the people at the side were dumbfounded. Someone raised his glass and asked, Director N, who is this? After all, it was rare to see Director N speak to someone in such a tone, as though he was talking to a family member. But this person was a little too young. Old Master N didn't explain further, he just said calmly, he is a friend of mine. Then what he said, is it true? Everyone present was very concerned about this issue. Grandpa N smiled and said, it's true. But that grandson of mine, as you all know, is very opinionated. He likes her too much, so he held the wedding overseas. What's the rush? Without Director N's permission. He should at least go through the formalities at home first, right? Old Master N smiled and said, what formality? In the future, that little rascal will belong to someone else. A married grandson is like water that has been poured out. But don't worry, when these two are done with their business, they will definitely make up for it in Jiang City. Remember to come when that time comes. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Is he really marrying into her family? God, what kind of family does she have? To be able to marry the only successor of the Qin and An clans. And everyone in the family agreed. Was there such a powerful family? If there was, how could they not know? At this thought, everyone once again turned their attention to the figure standing next to Grandpa An. Who was he? How could there be such an extravagant display at home? And this person's age didn't seem like someone who had many children. Of course, old Master An wouldn't let these curious gazes size him up for long. Because he knew how good he was at hiding his identity, and he knew that he didn't want to interact with others. Hence, old Master An didn't say much. When there was no one around, he sighed and said, "You really haven't aged at all." Chapter 1738. No one would notice that there was a slight redness in his eyes. He really looked like a demon from a comic. How could a demon grow old? He smiled again, as lazy as before. "All right, I'll let you know that I'm still here." "What do you mean?" The intelligent old Master An frowned. "Are you not going to see Joe?" Mr. Bo stood there as though he had merged with the darkness. "I've already seen her. Our Lord Joe is indeed very beautiful in her wedding dress." "You attended their wedding overseas?" Old Master An suddenly lifted his head. "They didn't recognize you." Mr. Bo corrected him. "To be precise, I hosted their wedding." "Ha, these two people have good taste. They chose the church that I slept in." "The church that you slept in?" Old Master An paused. He recalled the first time he met this person. He continued, "I have a question that I always wanted to ask. What method did you use to heal the wound that I knocked into you?" Mr. Bo laughed lightly. "Olden, isn't it too late for you to ask this question now?" Old Master An wanted to say something. Just then, he heard a cell phone ring. Mr. Bo pressed the answer button. His voice changed slightly. There was a hint of softness in his magnetism. "Me? I think I'm lost. Yeah, I don't know where I am. Are you coming to pick me up?" "All right, I'll wait for you here. Don't drive too fast. It's a little cold, right? You remember some things. Let me hear what you remember." Grandpa knew all too well what kind of situation his old friend would be in when he would act like a man living off a woman. It was clear at a glance who was calling. After Grandpa hung up the phone, he turned to look at him and said with a smile, "I'll take her to watch their competition. Speaking of which, I've only recently had time to watch their competition. When they win, I'll give them something else." After leaving this sentence, just like that, the slender figure disappeared into the boundless night. It was always so elegant that it was unbelievable. However, old Master An didn't stop him. After all, this sentence was enough. He also knew that this person would stand by the roadside and act pitiful after leaving this place. Hence, he didn't stop him. As expected, Mr. Bo was indeed very familiar with living off a woman. He strolled to the side of the road. Although his temperament was still evil, his suit jacket was unbuttoned, and he looked a little confused. He just stood there, glancing at the bats under the streetlight from the corner of his eyes. If there were other people around, they would definitely see that the bats seemed to tremble a few times before leaving. What's more, there shouldn't be bats so close to people in the city center. It wasn't the right season either. Everyone knew that bats like dark and damp places. Why would he be here? Everything in front of him didn't seem real. Following the bat's departure, the surrounding black mist also dissipated quite a bit. Mr. Bow stood under the streetlight. His shadow was very long. The night wind in autumn was a little strong. His black hair was a little messy, but even so, it did not affect his handsomeness. Instead, it made him look a little pitiful. Chapter 1739. From the Wrangler, she could see that the man was wearing a black suit under the streetlight. He was standing lazily. His side profile was a little pale under the light. There was a hazy mist around him. The person who saw this had an idea. After stopping the car, she pushed open the car door. The moment Mr. Bow raised his head, the corners of his lips lifted slightly. "Why are you standing here?" The voice that rang out was cold and aloof. However, because of his tone, she could hear the connivance in his voice. "Are you not allowed to enter a private gathering?" Mr. Bow replied with an mmh. Then, he placed his head on the person's shoulder, looking a little lonely. The person froze. Some cars passing by saw this scene from their rearview mirrors. A woman who exuded a businesslike aura. She didn't know why. She probably kept a little puppy. If not, she wouldn't have such a posture. Indeed, she couldn't see what the woman looked like. She could only see her fair legs under her professional dress. Her beautiful back and waistline were also visible. These weren't the only things that made people stare at her again and again. She had a cold and aloof aura. This was too rare. Why would such a woman need to keep a little puppy? It was such a waste. Also, from the woman's attire, she could tell that she wasn't an ordinary employee. Lu Luo wasn't an ordinary employee. However, there was a huge problem with her memory. She didn't know when it started. When this person came to find her. Lu Luo still didn't understand. He said that his name was Bo Yin and that he had a deep connection with her. As for what the connection was, she had to remember it herself. Lu Luo didn't think that she looked like she was cheated. However, he stood outside the mansion in the rain for half the night. He looked like a cat with a noble bloodline that was abandoned by its owner. When she pulled the door open, his lips were still curved. "Do you remember?" She replied, "No." The next day, when she went out again, the trees planted outside the door were all broken. He refused to enter the mansion. He leaned against the wall. In the morning, when there was light, his face was even paler than at night. However, his handsomeness didn't impress her. His face shouldn't have appeared in this world. There was even a hint of darkness and evilness. He said he had a disease that prevented him from staying in the sun for long. He even said that he would stay for a while before leaving. Sitting here, he could still be closer to her. 7 days. On the 7th day, Lu Luo brought him home when he looked like he was sick. She seemed to have lowered her guard a lot now that he was here. It was probably because this person looked too fragile. She didn't understand how her rationality could allow her to communicate with a boy younger than her. It should be a boy. Lu Luo lowered her gaze and looked at the person who placed his head on her shoulder. In order to do this work, he had to bend his waist with his height. However, Lu Luo didn't know why. This kind of thing made her happy easily. Even the problems he encountered in his business today were no longer so difficult to accept. Although it was a little bad for this person. However, Lu Luo finally understood what those directors were thinking when they fell in love with young ladies. Who wouldn't like someone who was young, obedient, good-looking, and could rely on you? Chapter 1740. In the novel. These words were said by the male CEO to the female protagonist. It was weird. It wasn't weird for Lu Luo to say it. It was probably because her aura made her look like a successful businessman. However, there was a trace of clarity in her eyes. Bo-in glanced sideways at her. His thin lips landed on her face. I don't want to go now. Lu Luo didn't expect him to kiss her. Her hand on his head paused for a moment. As someone who lived off a woman, Bo-in knew when to stop. His kiss was a little ticklish. Lu Luo thought about the Alaskan dog she had in the past. He liked to be intimate with her like this. Recently, she had been reading people's opinions on love between a younger man and a younger man. Very few endings were good. However, with their current situation, they probably couldn't even be considered a love between a younger man and a younger man. She was probably his sugar daddy. In the past, Lu Luo didn't like people who were so lazy. Including in the company, she liked people who knew how to plan their work and earn their own living. However, this person was always an exception. Why was that? Lu Luo kept searching for the reason. In the end, the only thing she could convince herself was that when this person was by her side, she didn't feel so lonely. When she reached home, someone would help her take off her high heels. Lu Luo asked her female friends if their boyfriends would do such things. The answer she got was a light chuckle. Are you crazy? It's more like taking off your high heels and clothes. He's so obedient. He must be younger than you. He was indeed younger than her. She couldn't treat him like a younger brother. She didn't continue chatting with her female friends. After all, Lu Luo didn't like to associate him with a pretty boy. She called him a boy because he had a youthful aura. He was soft and made people want to rely on him. However, he was a man. From the way he looked at her occasionally, Lu Luo knew that his mischievousness was addictive. Was this the benefit of being young? Lu Luo placed her hand on his head. She smiled faintly. Shall we get in the car? Yes. Bo Yin's voice was still lazy. After he got in the car, his voice became even deeper. You said that you remembered something. Lu Luo placed the financial report back in its original position. Her voice was a little deep. I can't remember now. It's just that some images are too blurry. Bo Yin didn't speak. He reached out and removed the report from her long legs. You should have told it that this is my position. With that, he lay down diagonally, his head resting on her lap. Lu Luo wasn't in a hurry to deal with the documents. After all, she was here to fetch him. Hence, she allowed him to rest on his pillow. She looked at his soft black hair and his handsome, flawless face. Lu Luo reached out her hand and stroked his hair with her fingertips. Her aura hadn't changed. Her makeup was still very exquisite. She was beautiful and clear. When she wore the professional attire, she looked even more determined. Boss Lu, are we going west or somewhere else? The driver watched this scene from the rearview mirror. He really couldn't understand why Boss Lu would find such a boyfriend. Apart from that face, there was nothing about them that matched each other. But recently, for some reason, Boss Lu seemed to like going west more and more. Chapter 1741. Lu Luo liked to go to the west because he was staying there now. When she picked him up, he was staying there too. However, it was obvious that this person was quieter than before today. Lu Luo lowered her eyes. He seemed to be the same in the past. Suddenly, he was quieter. Are you unhappy because I didn't remember? Lu Luo asked the person lying on her lap. That person suddenly laughed and held her hand. His voice was magnetic and pleasant to the ears. No, as long as you can remember to bring me home every day, it's enough. The people in the dramas want their other half to regain their memories. Lu Luo looked at him. She didn't seem to believe that she knew him in the past. Bo Yin could tell. He smiled. That's fine. If you recover, I'll bring you to meet someone. If you don't recover, we'll start dating again. Lu Luo smiled. His words always made her feel comfortable. Was this the reason why those people who were raising other people outside the office? Today's work report was supposed to be done in the office. However, when she remembered that he was going to attend a business gathering, she brought the report with her. All her female friends knew about his existence. Someone asked her what he did for a living. Lu Luo was stumped by this question. After all, this person rarely went out during the day. He always came out at night. Does he work in a bar? Or is he a student? He doesn't need to wake up early. Someone guessed and told her that this kind of guy wouldn't really want to date someone like them. Lu Luo knew that this had nothing to do with confidence. For someone as old as him, he liked sweet and beautiful girls who admired him. However, Lu Luo's philosophy was simple. With him by her side, she felt very relaxed. She knew what the boundaries were. Now, it was a problem whether she should ask about his job or not. After all, when she saw other people raising other people, she would help them. This person would never ask for anything from her. The most he would do was call her and ask, "Can you come back earlier today?" This always made Lu Luo feel that he really missed her. He was like a husband waiting for his wife. Lu Luo didn't want to appear too materialistic, even though she was a materialistic person. But she should give something back to him. You. Lu Luo paused for a moment. Are you working? Bo Yin looked at her and replied, Lu Luo didn't hide anything. What is it? Do you need my help? Voice C. Bo Yin moved closer. The only thing you need to do is take good care of me. Don't always leave me alone at home. Reply to my messages as soon as possible and don't hang up on me during meetings. Lu Luo's fingers froze when she heard this. Maybe another day. She would ask her female friends another day. Why was the one she raised different from the ones that the bosses raised outside? However, it made sense. This person was very smart and always knew how to make her happy. It was never materialized. He had always been different from her. Even if he really wanted something, his rank wouldn't be that low. The person she had picked up. To a certain extent, he understood them quite well. I asked too directly. Lu Luo smiled softly and pinched his face. Her suit made her neck look very long. Will I hurt you? Chapter 1742. Shouldn't I compensate you? He finally mentioned compensation. Lu Luo heaved a sigh of relief. After all, this was the only way she could continue to operate their relationship. He gave her warmth and accompanied her. She should compensate him accordingly. That was the right thing to do. Yes, you should. Lu Luo placed her hand on his head again. She knew that she couldn't say some things too directly. In the past, she didn't have any worries. However, he was still a man. Lu Luo was finding a balance. She didn't want to see him like this. They reached the place. The chauffeur left. The house on the west side wasn't very big. It looked a little ancient, but it was a standalone villa. Lu Luo pushed the door open and entered. She wanted to have a good chat with him. However, he hugged her from behind. Then, he kissed her on the neck. His aura was cold. It felt as though there was no warmth at all. However, for some reason, her entire body felt numb. Perhaps it was because his teeth always brought a different feeling when they brushed past her veins. She couldn't resist at all. Be good. Yes, don't. Lu Luo was still clear-headed. She reminded him not to overdo it. Bo Yin tilted his face. His breath landed on her ear. You hurt me just now. Shouldn't you compensate me? Luo didn't expect him to ask for such compensation. She wanted to look up. His hand slid down the hem of her dress and reached inside. Her long legs trembled when they touched his cold skin. Luo trembled. She looked into his eyes. Bo-in lowered his gaze. He smiled faintly. Don't worry. You will like it. His voice was like hypnosis. It was low and mesmerizing. It was as though red wine had been poured into ice cubes. Luo didn't know how to describe it. In her memory, no one had done such a thing to her before. It had been such a long time. When he was beside her, he would kiss her face most of the time. Sometimes, he would act like he was relying on her. But today was different. Luo wasn't sure if she was prepared. From a certain perspective, she didn't want their relationship to develop like this. She knew that from a biological point of view. The body of a young man was really addictive. His influence over her was already there to begin with. If this continued, Luo wasn't sure if she would let him go when he left. This compensation won't do. Luo couldn't see his face. From this angle, she could only press his wrist. It's not convenient for me. Bo-in raised his eyebrows. Inconvenient? My relatives are here. Luo found an excuse. She, who was wearing a professional suit, took a step away from him. She had been wearing high heels for a long time. The moment she entered the entrance, her first reaction was to change into a pair of slippers. Before she could bend down, someone was one step ahead of her, pressing down on her fair ankle and taking off her high heels. He landed on one knee, which made her subconsciously place a hand on his shoulder. It was probably because he was too handsome. Even such an action would not make people feel inferior. On the contrary, he was as evil as the devil deacons in the manga. His aura was not suppressed at all. Instead, it made people feel embarrassed every time. Even Luo was the same. I will take it off myself in the future. Chapter 1743. Before Luo could ask, "How did you know?" that person's kiss landed on her lips. The breath on his lips seemed to have an unknown fragrance. It was like the smell of roses at dusk. But he never used men's perfume. Luo was still wondering if all young bodies were like this. He had removed the suit on his body. She could feel his rising body temperature. It wasn't his. It was hers. He seemed to have no temperature. But because of his coldness, it made her heart palpitate easily. Luo didn't resist intentionally. She suspected that no one could resist him. His aura, voice, and face were enough to make it hard for people to reject him. She was an adult. She wouldn't panic when such a thing happened. Most importantly, it was because of her personality. However, in her mind, it wouldn't happen so quickly. She had a cold personality. She probably wouldn't be too passionate in this aspect. She had never thought about it. She didn't have anyone close to her. She had a fiancé a long time ago. It ended before it even started. Because of what he said, she didn't treat him well enough. When she was busy, she didn't look for him. She wouldn't take the initiative. Hence, the two of them just watched a movie. In the end, she found out his thoughts. Rather than saying that someone else intervened, it was more accurate to say that their relationship was thin. Sometimes the strange thing about men is that if you found out his mistake, you would break up with him. Instead, he would be reluctant to let her go. He would even try to persuade her to stay. He would say things like, "I don't like her. You are always like this. My novelty is almost gone. Why don't you let me touch you?" Luluo wasn't very strict when it came to such matters. Since she was an adult, it was a natural thing to do. She looked at the man who was also successful in his career. She placed her pen down. We are not suitable. That person hated her. She was ruthless. There was a period of time when people saw her and asked her if she was too cold in that aspect. It had been a long time. Even now, Luluo could only remember bits and pieces of it. She remembered that someone had suggested that she find a younger man as well. Now, it really came true. When Luluo looked up, her neck was slender and beautiful. Bo-in wasn't satisfied. He bit her ear gently. What are you thinking about? You're not paying attention. Luluo didn't know how to focus anymore. When she felt the numbness, her mind went blank. He buried his head in her neck and said, "Don't move. I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself and bite you." Luluo could feel the sensation brought by his white teeth. They were a little sharp and a little itchy. They seemed to be able to suck away all her energy. She wanted to take a look, but he held her wrist and interlocked their fingers. He seemed to like her reaction very much. He chuckled beside her ear, his voice husky and sexy. He picked her up and let her sit in his arms. Her clothes were already in a mess. His breath was still in her ear, and his voice didn't stop. You used to like this position the most. Luluo didn't say anything because if she opened her mouth, her voice would be intermittent. It was a very hot body temperature and waves of numbness, but he did not seem to feel tired at all. Luluo slowly lost her strength. She wanted to escape. But he pulled her back. His thin lips landed on her neck again. Chapter 1744. Her consciousness started to drift away. It wasn't common for her to feel like her body wasn't under her control. She wasn't sure if all young people liked to bite people. However, he liked to bite people. He didn't make her feel uncomfortable at all. Instead, even his blood seemed to have found its most primordial calling. Luluo didn't have a place to place her hands. She could only grab the cushion of the sofa. Even the corner of her eyes seemed to leak out the unbearable numbness. The sweetness in his mouth made Bo Yin's eyes turn scarlet, but when he saw that the person in his arms was her, he held back and only tightened his arms around her slender waist. He chuckled huskily, "I told you, you like it a lot." Luluo rarely lived such a ridiculous life. From the sofa to the bathroom, then to the bed. The faint rose fragrance lingered in her nose. Sometimes, it made her feel as though she wasn't in a room. Instead, she felt as though she was in an ancient castle. After that, he didn't leave her. He knew how to take care of people. It didn't seem like his first time. Luluo was mentally prepared. She also knew that it wasn't her first time. However, she forgot who she gave her first time to. Probably because she was in a daze, he lifted her waist again and lowered his voice. "Why don't we have another child? It can help you regain your memory. However, this time, the child might follow me." Child. Luluo's consciousness hadn't recovered completely. The numbness was still lingering on her fingertips. "Another child." Bo-in replied with a and kissed her on the neck again. The weather outside was slightly cold because it was autumn. However, the people in the house didn't feel anything. Even though the two of them were sleeping under the same blanket. Luluo had always been smart. She studied economics too. After she regained her consciousness, the first thing she said was, "I had a child with you before." Where? According to their age, the child shouldn't be old. Luluo liked children. Even though many people told her to be careful of the person she was raising, she still liked him. However, at this moment, Luluo was a little shaken. She even believed his words. Bo-in lowered his gaze and hugged her through the blanket. When you remember everything, I'll bring you to see her. Luo was very tired, but she didn't close her eyes. You promised that you didn't lie to me, right? Of course. Bo-in kissed the corner of her eye. Luo couldn't bear to end this topic. Is it a boy or a girl? A girl. Bo-in's voice was low. She's good at handling relationships. Luo wondered if there was a generation gap between them. Are girls good at handling relationships? Yeah. When Bo-in talked about his Lord Joe, he would add a few more words. You're very popular with girls. When they see you, they'll probably call you mother-in-law. Mother-in-law. Luo laughed. She seemed to be thinking about something. Bo-in knew that these things had to be slowly absorbed. She might not be able to accept this. However, Luo was Luo after all. She only smiled and said, even girls like their daughters. She must be very charismatic. It is indeed very fierce. Bo-in looked at her. Do you believe it? Luo smiled faintly. She was still a businesswoman. It's not bad to have a daughter. I like girls a lot. When the time comes, I can buy her a beautiful princess dress. Bo-in smiled and rested his hand on her shoulder. Luo didn't understand. Why are you laughing? Chapter 1745. Luo listened to his words. She was smart enough to guess that this matter wasn't simple. In the end, you'll see for yourself when the time comes. Bo-in chuckled. Our Lord Jiao has learned how to act like a lady in front of you. Luo didn't know why, but she wanted to hear more. Our Master Jiao. Her name is Jiao. Jiao. Bo-in lowered his voice. If one listened carefully, there were some other emotions in his voice. You named it. You said you wanted to be with Mr. Bo for a long time. Luo leaned on him tiredly. I don't remember. It's okay. Bo-in's voice was as pleasant as ever. As long as I remember it. Luo's heart skipped a beat. To prevent herself from being affected, she continued the topic just now. I want to meet her. I'll take you there. Bo-in reached out and tucked her hair behind her ear. But it might scare you, so you have to be prepared before you go. Luo didn't ask him what he needed to prepare. Luo laughed softly. There are very few things that can scare me. Wait a little longer. Bo-in pushed her hair aside. She has a match to play. In Luo's imagination, the competition this person was talking about should be something like elementary school basketball. However, this didn't affect Luo's expectations for her daughter. She did believe his words. Many people said that she had never gotten a marriage certificate. But at the same time, no one could explain the years when she was abroad. Sometimes, Luo felt that she shouldn't be this old. Her friend next to her also said that 3 years had passed, but there was no change on her face. She asked where she bought her skincare products. Luo didn't use a fixed signboard. There was always an illusion. Her age was frozen at 31. But for this person, 31 years old shouldn't be young. How old was he? Luo couldn't tell. But definitely younger than her. The last time she saw him in a black t-shirt, she knew that. However, none of this seemed to be important. If what he said was not true. She also felt happy. This was probably what it felt like to have someone by your side. It was just that the physical relationship was a little subtle. This subtle feeling deepened when he woke up the next day. After work, a friend suggested a small gathering. Luo was always very efficient in her work. At around 3 p.m., she left the company and went to the cafe near the building. Sometimes, successful women on TV didn't fit reality very well. Women talk about love and family. Drinking coffee and eating dessert, most people would only give it to a wife who had a rich husband and liked to go shopping. In fact, that was not the case. The cultivation of a woman's temperament. There would be a unique laziness in the afternoon. The people sitting at this table were all doing well in their respective fields. One of them was preparing for a divorce. He was originally very engrossed in his speech. When he saw Luo, his gaze landed on her neck. He paused for a moment and smiled. "What's going on? Didn't you say that you wouldn't touch the puppy you brought home?" It's hard to imagine that even Boss Lu can't hold back. When she was in the office, Luo would button the last button of her suit. In this kind of place, she definitely wouldn't be too reserved. She didn't expect that there would be such a spot after taking off her jacket. In my opinion, that little puppy also picked up a bargain. It can't be just a bite, right? Dear President Lu, just say it. Could it be that you couldn't help it? Chapter 1746. Who said that you can't take care of it? I understand that you can't resist a fresh and young body. What do you understand? Do you think Boss Lu is like you? Her friends would definitely tease her. They didn't have any ill intentions. They were women in their 30s. In many people's eyes, they only knew how to gossip. In reality, that wasn't the case. They had their elegance and jokes. They could even relieve their stress. They also knew how to exchange resources. They wouldn't feel uncomfortable. The price to pay for marriage is too high. One of the women casually placed her hand on the back of the chair. She had a lazy beauty. It's better to be like you and find a happy man to take care of. Listen, are you being urged to get married again? My family wants me to marry a man with a stable job. When a man with a stable job sees me, he will think that I'm not doing my job properly. He will think that I'm a mistress. When Luo heard this, she took out a piece of tissue and wiped the corner of the woman's mouth. The woman smiled and leaned on Luo's shoulder. "I'm a 5-element master. How do I look like I'm not doing my job properly?" As expected, no one is better than Boss Lu. Don't get so close to Boss Lu. Boss Lu has a puppy. The other woman smiled softly and took off her glasses. 5-element master, you set up a divination under the bridge. Indeed, you look like you're not doing your job properly. The woman yawned. When I'm working, all of you are sleeping. Are you blaming me? The more I listen to her, the more she sounds like someone from a nightclub, the woman said. Come, help us find out the fate of Boss Lu and her puppy. The woman sat up straight and smiled. I can't find out Boss Lu's fate. Honestly, I'm very interested in her puppy. You look like you want to be a mistress. The woman smiled. I want to be a mistress. I want to snatch Boss Lu over. Before the puppy appeared, Boss Lu doted on me. Now, I feel that my status is being threatened. She dotes on you too. Luo smiled again. Her aura was outstanding. A joke between friends would always lead to the truth. Do you think he's trustworthy? Luo put down her teacup. Her aura didn't change. Let's take one step at a time. Why are you so nervous? It's nothing, it's all because I fell in love with someone younger than me. Don't you know that when he liked me, it was earth-shattering? He really liked me. When he didn't like me anymore, he didn't even dare to say it out loud and dyed my hair green. The most awkward thing was that when I saw the new girl he found, I even saw her during my training. The little girl kept crying to me, saying that I didn't do it on purpose. There were so many students watching. It doesn't matter if she cheated on me, but if the whole company knows about it, how am I supposed to manage people in the future? The woman couldn't help laughing. Ha ha ha. The person who spoke put away his notebook and glanced over. That half-immortal who swindled money, are you done laughing? Didn't you almost break that man's leg with a stick? Haven't you vented your anger yet? That's what I'm most angry about. I'm such a civilized person, yet you forced me to use a stick. Chapter 1747. Stop talking. My head is hurting. The woman called Boss Ran glanced sideways. I'm asking Lu Luo to think carefully. Sometimes, it's troublesome to find a younger man. It's fine after the novelty is over. Look at me. Even young boyfriends want to go back to their wives. Who doesn't want to stay by Lu Luo's side forever? That's true. But Boss Lu's little puppy doesn't behave normally. I've never seen a young boy who doesn't show his desires after knowing him for more than 2 months. That's true. That's why he's smart. He doesn't make his sugar daddy feel disgusted. That's why Lu Luo won't be wary of him. Lu Luo smiled when she heard this. He is indeed trying to make me less wary of him. He said that we had a child in the past. Child. The eyes of the other 3 women on the table widened. Lu Luo added a piece of rock candy into her teacup. You don't believe him, right? He's bragging a little too much. The fortune teller sat up straight. I can't even handle it. Lu Luo lowered her gaze. She was still a businesswoman. That's why I want to follow him to take a look. You probably want a child, right? Boss Ran placed her hand on her chin and said, I saw you stop when you passed by a children's shop. Lu Luo nodded. She didn't hide anything. Children's accessories nowadays are quite good, especially that little keyboard. I feel that if I really have a child, I'll give it to her. She will definitely like it. Boss Ran shook her head. Give your child a little keyboard. Only Lu Luo would think of such a thing. However, even Lu Luo didn't know why. She would stop when she saw the little keyboard. She would hold her briefcase and look at it for a long time. She even missed a meeting. This little puppy's level is too high. The fortune teller shook her head and pulled Lu Luo's thoughts back to reality. Lu Luo slid her finger across the rim of her cup. He said that our child has a competition in Milan. Competition. Milan. The fortune teller played with her hair. What a coincidence. My idol is going to Milan to compete in the international competition. Lu Luo glanced at her. Your idol. My big spade. I'm telling you, my big spade can't be any more handsome. The fortune teller revealed her fangirl side. Especially when she was doing frog jumps. Her hair was still curled up, and she had a devilish smile on her face. At that moment, I understood why you guys like girls who are younger than you. She's really handsome. My heart skipped a beat. As a big sister fan, I've completely fallen for her. Lu Luo didn't play games, so she had no experience in this area. Hence, she wasn't sure. But it was rare to see a friend so excited, so he asked with a smile, World Championship? Basketball or tennis? No, it's esports. The fortune teller felt that she couldn't explain it clearly, so she took out her phone and wanted to teach Lu Luo about this. At the same time, she wanted to recommend her Adonis. The person next to her stopped her. Let's get back to the topic, okay? Now, we're talking about whether the child that the little puppy mentioned really exists. It's not a bad idea to go and take a look. The woman wearing gold-rimmed glasses crossed her legs. Let's see what tricks the little puppy is playing. Luo didn't reply immediately because she received a message from her private number. The screen lit up. He didn't finish reading the first one. Another message followed closely behind. Where? Chapter 1748. Women are smart. At this moment, Luo's private number rang. It definitely wasn't work-related. Your little puppy. Luo replied with an okay. She tapped the edge of her phone twice with her fingertips before replying, I'm not at the office. I'm with my friends. Do you mind being surrounded by people? In the next second, the other side sent another message. I don't mind, it's my honor. Luo smiled when she saw this. They were right. Her little puppy was very cunning. However, from the perspective of recruitment, who wouldn't like someone who made others feel comfortable with their words? Luo felt that the market lacked this kind of talent. If she met him, she would definitely poach him to the company. Boss Lu actually smiled. The fortune teller was still joking. Indeed, the power of love. What did I say? Did I start to stick to you again? These young people are all like this at the beginning, but yours did take a long time. After Luo sent the address, she kept her phone and met her friend's gaze. He's coming to pick me up. You will see him in a while. Coincidentally, the four of them had known each other for 2 years. No matter what the love life was like. At the very least, it was a form of approval. It's good to meet him. Let's see what kind of little puppy stole my boss Lu's soul. Luo smiled softly. I want to get your opinion. I knew my boss Lu didn't abandon me. The fortune teller tilted her head and rested her head on Luo's shoulder. She clenched her fists tightly. Don't worry. I will definitely help you with your research. Luo glanced sideways. She seemed a little nonchalant. He's learning C language. He should have just graduated. Everyone present understood. Previously, when they made friends, at the very least, they found the kind of people that they would meet frequently. In terms of economy, even if there was a gap, it wouldn't be too big. Luo was probably different from the ones they knew before. After all, he didn't like to go out to play and only liked to stay at home and wait for people to come home. No boy could do this. They had heard Luo answering the phone a few times. She gave them the feeling that she was very obedient. Moreover, Luo said that he learned C language, so he should be a bespectacled tech guy. They were not the only ones who thought so. Even a young girl who was walking over thought so. She had an outstanding-looking man on her arm. However, the man's gaze was fixed on Luo. That was why the young girl smiled. I didn't expect to meet Sister Lu and Sister Ran here. Sister Ran, were you just talking about Sister Lu's new boyfriend? Learning C language. The young girl furrowed her brows slightly as she spoke. This doesn't seem to be suitable for Sister Lu. Too many people in our school who study this have no future. Luo opened her mouth and held the cup of tea in her hand. As long as I think it's suitable, it's fine. The point of this matter is not whether it's suitable or not. As the young woman spoke, she glanced sideways. She saw that the man's gaze was still on Luo. Even if you are looking for a new boyfriend to heal your injuries, you should be more serious. After all, Sister Lu is already old. Heal. Whose injury is it? Luo's aura was probably like this. Even if he were to sit down, he would not be affected in the slightest by the style of a high-end businessman. It seemed to be saying, you really think too highly of yourself. In front of me, you are just a toy. Very few women give people this kind of feeling. However, Luo wasn't an ordinary woman. She herself caused people to be curious. After all, she managed to develop her company to such a scale in just a few years. It was really rare. Now, she just raised her eyebrows. That was enough to make the man realize that he had never gotten close to her. Even in terms of aura, he was inferior to her by a large margin. To be fair, if he didn't get conquered by such a woman, he would be destroying his pride. You really haven't changed at all. The man's face was gloomy. Even his words were filled with sarcasm. She is just giving me some suggestions. The young woman seized the chance and comforted him softly. Don't be angry. After she finished speaking, she looked towards Luluo. Sometimes, I really don't understand you. Why didn't you cherish such a good man? Why did you have to keep a pretty boy as your mistress? Now, it seems like everyone likes young men. I hope that Sister Lu won't be like your friend beside you and be cheated of your money and body. When Ran Qing heard this, she wanted to use her rod again. Lu Luo's voice was calm. When we look for boyfriends, just like how the person beside you looks for you, we like young men. This is normal. When the young woman heard this, her expression instantly turned ugly. What do you mean by this? Are you comparing me to the person you are keeping? If it's certain someone wasn't coming soon. Usually, Lu Luo wouldn't have replied to this. To her, this process was boring and boring. However, when someone paid attention to someone, they would think that someone else paid attention to them. Except for her friends. The other onlookers were the same. They looked as though they were watching a good show and wanted to see the world in chaos. The rumors spread like wildfire. If she didn't reply, people would say that she still had feelings for this man. Even now, she didn't take the initiative to say that she still had feelings for him. If she replied, people would say that she overestimated herself and fought with a young woman. It was quite funny. What was she fighting for? She wasn't interested in these things. She wasn't even interested in the young woman in front of her. This was probably the difference in age. The difference in mental age. No matter what it was, if she didn't understand the situation, she would make a big fuss about it. In the eyes of others, this might be courage. She was fighting for what she wanted. The louder one was, the more reasonable one was. When could she get rid of this concept? Those who liked to spread rumors and were liked by others were quite interesting. Lu Luo glanced at the people next door who were tiptoeing and looking at them. She could see that they were taking photos. She knew that some people liked to gossip. They would even use their own subjective consciousness to judge what kind of news he was spreading. She glanced sideways. Her voice was still calm. You are thinking too much. You don't need to compare yourself with me. The young woman scoffed. I'm the one who was chosen by him. This is the truth. Lu Luo felt that perhaps she was really old. She couldn't communicate with others anymore. She put down her teacup. No one wants to compare themselves with you. Have you ever thought that if you say these things to me today, people will say that we put on a big show because we are fighting for someone else? Is this the truth? The truth is that I'm protecting my boyfriend. He's young, but it doesn't mean that he's a pretty boy. In my eyes, he's more than 10 times better than the man beside you. The moment Lu Luo finished her sentence, a voice came from the other side. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.